We'll tell you why we can't, and we'll find the information for you. I do have a speaker list, but this will not be limited to the people who have signed up. Once we go through the speakers list, if anyone else would like to speak, we invite you to do so. If you will, try to hold your comments or questions to 3 minutes, so that everyone will have an opportunity.
First of all, I would like to identify myself as Billy Elmore, the state chairman of NC Warren, which is North Carolina Waste Awareness and Reduction Network. I'm also the co-chairman of League Challenge Concerned Citizens. First of all, I'd like to tell the Commission that the second set of criteria was not in my library. And secondly, that I am on your mailing list and I did not receive the criteria from the Management Commission. And here's my statement. The Martin administration has offered to build a 50,000-ton incinerator for the use of the 8 states in the Southeast that constitute EPA Region 4. However, it would be open to anybody else in the nation. The actual need for additional incinerator capacity has been questioned by the Congress of the United States Office of Technology Assessment. This federal agency has also reported that over 50% of all hazardous waste could be eliminated within a 5-year period through waste reduction programs instead of incineration and landfill. Even EPA says there is only an immediate shortage of incinerators, not a long-term one, as facilities already in the process of being developed come online. We believe that incineration and landfilling was chosen for North Carolina not based on need, but because incineration is the most profitable for the waste management industry. And landfills are the cheapest for the chemical industry. Waste reduction simply does not bring in those big corporate profits that companies like Waste Management Incorporated are accustomed to receiving. What we are not hearing discussed publicly by the North Carolina Hazardous Waste Management Commission, the Governor's Waste Management Board, or anyone else in the Martin administration are the dangers of incineration to the citizens of North Carolina. Previously, dioxin generation and heavy metals in the ash that must be put in landfills were thought to be the greatest dangers for hazardous waste incineration. Dioxins and heavy metals are toxic and dangerous to humans. However, new research studies conducted at the Harvard School of Public Health and Brigham Young University are demonstrating that fine particles are the most dangerous products of incineration. These are tiny, invisible, pollution-coated particles which bypass all of the state-of-the-art pollution control devices and end up deep down in our lungs where they pass into our blood. The pollution that attaches to these fine particles are primarily heavy metals that are vaporized in the incineration process. Hardest hit by these toxic and cancer-producing particles are the very young, the very old, and the very healthy, who exercise, play sports, and jog. These outside activities increase the intake of fine particles into the lungs from breathing through our mouths. It is not necessary to live or play in the neighborhood of an incinerator because these fine particles can travel hundreds of miles on air currents. Federal law allows an incinerator to emit 180 milligrams of particles for every cubic meter of air. For a large incinerator smokestack, it would be legal to release 660,000 pounds of harmful particles yearly. Typically, half of these particles would be respirable, breathable, measuring 2 micrometers or less in size. The EPA admitted when it set the particle matter standard that there is no evidence there is evidence that no levels of fine particle pollution are safe, especially for children. Here are some of the factors that put children more at risk. Children inhale more particles per pound of body weight than adults because their respiration is 10 times faster, and with their higher rate of physical activity, their respiration rate increases even more. Being shorter, they're closer to the ground and to the polluted particles that gravity pulls to that level. Children breathe through their mouths when they play and therefore do not benefit fully from nasal filtering. They also absorb more through their skin, since their skin and body covering is thinner than adults. That makes them further greater at risk. They ingest more pollutants, since young children tend to mouth things. Their high caloric and fluid intake compared to their body weight increases their vulnerability to the pollutants. If you have a garden, the child would be more affected by the pollutants that are absorbed into the lettuce or vegetables more so than adults will be. Short-term impacts are more obvious, such as eye irritation and respiratory irritants, than the long-term problems caused by carcinogens and neurotoxins, which won't show up for years. Since their bodies are still forming in the forming process, these toxins will have an effect on them as their bodies form. Children are more affected by lead. Impairments, even hearing impairments, have been found in children at blood levels as low as 12 micrograms per deciliter. The current EPA standard is much higher than that, 30 micrograms per deciliter set in 1985. Any other polluting industry in the area of the incinerator will compound the effect of air, water, and soil contamination attributable to incinerators. Yet, North Carolina marches on a fast track toward incineration as if nothing else matters, least of all the health of this state's future, its children. Many citizens want to know what they can do about this plan to trash North Carolina. Here are some of the important things you can do. With an election year coming up in 1990, ask your governor and ask your state politicians where they stand. Tell them you want the landfill ban put back in the law. Demand that monitored, retrievable, above-ground storage be used instead of a dump. Insist that we force industry to keep responsibility, ownership, and liability of the hazardous waste they produce until such time as safe treatment technology is available to make their dangerous waste non-toxic. Tell them that North Carolinians will not accept the two least desirable and potentially most harmful treatment and disposal methods as our state's plan for hazardous waste management. Tell them you want Senate Bill 952, which requires polluting industries to reduce the production of hazardous waste by 30% in 2 years. Write or call Governor Martin and tell him that we want a governor that will provide leadership in our state to solve important problems. We want his energy spent on such problems as our disgraceful educational system and crack cocaine usage, which is now at 78,000 in our state. We don't want or need a waste czar who spends his time trying to please the giant waste management industry at the expense of the people of North Carolina. I will remind you of what I told you back in July of this year. Having read Senate Bill 324, it is clear to me that the General Assembly intends that you place appropriate emphasis on waste reduction. Therefore, we want concrete evidence that this is a priority of this management commission and concrete evidence that industries in North Carolina are seriously and expeditiously reducing the hazardous waste that they generate, not just paying lip service to reduction. We will give you no cooperation until these two things begin to occur in earnest. And believe me when I tell you that without our cooperation, you can expect a very difficult, if not impossible, task ahead of you in trying to cite anything in the state of North Carolina.
The next speaker on my list is Mrs. Jeanette Carpenter. Mrs. Carpenter? All right, thank you. The next speaker is Mrs. Susan Chavis. Ms. Susan Chavis? Pam Johnson. Is it Pam Johnson?
I'm Pam Johnson. I'd like to comment that Susan Chavis is most likely out collecting donations outside and did not hear you call her name. She is interested.
All right.
Okay. I don't have a prepared speech. I'd just like to comment on what I've seen here tonight, that first, your first set of criteria to eliminate about a quarter of the state, is that correct, somewhere?
About a third.
Right, the very first set of criteria eliminated all the state-owned and federally owned land in the state, did it not? And is that called the not in my backyard syndrome?
No, it did not eliminate all the state-owned land. It eliminated state forests, state game land. Only the specific designations that you saw on the list. It does not eliminate all of the state-owned land.
Well, the other state-owned land would be examples from in densely populated areas, maybe?
It would include, and there are need some help. It would include the highway land, it would include the prisons, land for prisons, it would include the National Guard, land used by the National Guard for training exercise. I mean, it would include that. I'm sorry. Highway patrol areas for training and stations. It does not eliminate all the state-owned land, and that was not the intent. By the way, also, the state-owned and federally owned lands, as far as parks, normally we have no control over that. It is mandated by statute that these be eliminated from consideration.
I would like to see some consideration given to the human beings that will be living anywhere near this hazardous waste incinerator. I can understand that there's probably a lot of pressure to get this cited by the end of May, I believe, and you may lose sight of the human element here. We're talking about real, live people that are me and my friends and my family, and everybody, every one of us is an individual, and your job is, we can only look at it as kind of a dirty job because whoever you pick is going to be this deadly. So we would like to really feel that you have consideration for us in rural areas, which we really don't feel at this point. I've heard certain things that seem to be this is a business proposition, and to me, it's not life. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Pat Montgomery. Pat Montgomery. Not Mrs. I'm sorry, Pat. Excuse me.